Ted Danson back on television on a regular series again, The Good Place on NBC. Just tell us what attracted you to this project.
Two things. I sat down with Mike Schur, who's the writer-creator, and his pedigree was so impressive. I loved Parks and Rec, which he co-created, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he also was a showrunner for a while on The Office. So I loved where he came from, and then I sat in a room and talked to him for about an hour, and he came up with this strangest idea I'd ever heard about the afterlife. And I also heard at the same time that Kristen Bell, who was a friend, was also very interested in thinking about doing it. So I really chose to do it basically in the room. And both Kristen and I signed up without ever seeing a script, just talking to him.
Well, that's rare, not seeing a script or two to make sure. But when you have somebody with that kind of talent, you probably feel very comfortable with that.
Yeah, and it was really, I mean, he talked for an hour, straight, telling us where he thought the show would go. And the fact that it's funny, but it's about something at the same time, with many twists and turns. But it really is about what it means to be good, or bad. That everything you do in life, everything we do, has a ripple effect that creates a certain amount of good or bad out in the universe. And in our show, the funny part is that that's how you get into the good place, into the afterlife, is by having done so many good things that your point total is really high. So it's just based on a point system. It's not your heaven and hell that you were taught in Sunday school.
But the fun thing right away is we find out that Kristen Bell's character, so a mistake has been made, and she's not supposed to be there, and you're not aware of that.
Right. See, I'm Michael. I've never been human before, and I've been an apprentice for many, many years, like hundreds of years. And it's finally my chance to design, to be the architect of a neighborhood, because in our story, the afterlife is broken up into many, many neighborhoods, each one containing 322 people who are perfectly matched. And I have created, in anticipation of this, graduating class from Earth, from life, coming to my neighborhood. And I worked so hard. I'm middle management, by the way. I'm a little bit over my head, but I love humans, and I just want to make this as good as possible. And so when all of a sudden things start to go wrong because Kristen Bell should not be there, it's a clerical error. And it's like dropping some sand into a fine Swiss watch. Everything starts to fall apart. Michael, I assume that it's my fault, that I've messed up my first job. So, and then Mike Schur, our writer, at the end of every episode is like this U-turn where you discover, so you're constantly kind of off balance. It's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. It is so bizarre,
When you talk to him early on, or even now when you get a new script, do you have any input at all into where your character might go or where the story might go?
I was trained by Les and Glenn Charles, Jimmy Burrows on Cheers. And the training there was kind of, the writers write it, and then the feedback you give, that you have, is this is what I feel when I say your words. Is that what you meant? This is what, so you can kind of, your input is the emotional logic that you come upon when you say those words. So you want to be on the same page. So I don't think of ideas. I try to implement what he comes up with. And he has a staff that are brilliant working with him. So I try it on for size, and if I can't make it work, then he'll rewrite it or change it. But basically it's such good writing. you just can't wait to say those words.
Well, I've got to tell you, watching these episodes so far, a couple of things I love about Michael, and maybe just talk about playing these aspects. One is it is his first job in terms of being in charge, so he's just so enthusiastic about everything. I really like that.
Loves human beings, just loves them. I didn't really quite know how to play Michael until I went into the wardrobe department, and the designer, the costume designer for the show, said, you may want to look at these. And she brought out some bow ties made out of peacock feathers. And it was like, okay. So Michael wears bow ties. And to me, when I see a bow tie on somebody, that person is a certain way in my mind from then on. It is such a defining little article of clothing. So I think I got a lot of how to play Michael out of that bow tie.
Another aspect I like is because really in his life, nothing's ever gone wrong. He's never seen things gone wrong. He has no idea how to react to that.
Yes, totally strange. I also love that we're not just saying that our show takes place in the afterlife. We have special effects that make you feel very much like, oh, I am in a different place. This is not normal, and I find that fun too.
We'll talk about Kristen Bell. She's also a TV veteran, and people have just loved her for years. What's she like working alongside?
She's a dreamboat. She really is. Kristen and I met on a film called The Big Miracle, and it was a true story about whales up in Barrow, Alaska, that got trapped by the ice. And it was a huge cast of people, and John Krasinski was up there, and we all became kind of buddies, and we went out a couple times, Mary and I, with Dax, Kristen's husband, and we became great friends. I really admire Dax hugely. So we kept looking for ways to get together socially. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves in the same show, and it was like, pinch yourself. We get to come to work every day, get paid, say funny stuff, and we get to see each other every day. I mean, it's really, really very sweet. I admire her hugely. She is so bright, so fast, so focused. And all she really cares about, she loves coming to work, but all she cares about are her two children, her two girls, and her husband, Dax. So literally, you'd be standing waiting for the director to say action, and she'll be going like this, FaceTiming, with her daughters going, all right, honey, I'll be right back. So anyway, Michael, and boom, she does a scene, and then she's back to her children. And she does it brilliantly, both mothering. She's really incredible.
Well, I've got to say, when you and I,
which is
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying it's kind of perfect that she's so much smarter than I am, than me, Ted, because I think in the show you will discover that she's way smarter than Michael too as we go along, which is kind of fun.
When you're basically lying, you always have to come up with more lies to back up those lies. So that's usually a pretty smart person.
Yeah. I didn't hear the last thing you said. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say, to add on to that, both of you being on this show together, I talked to one of your co-stars the other night at a party where you and I met. And other than you and Kristen, most everybody else, it's their first series, or maybe something, for many, it's their first, TV role. Yeah. And they both, the person I was talking to said, you and Kristen are so professional, so on top of things, that they're all learning from you.
That's that they're not used to talking to the press, so they so they immediately, throw the focus over on those two people. They're amazing, the actors that we're working with. Will Harper, plays Chidi on this, and he's a New York theater actor and wonderful. Jamila Jamil, is from England, and she used to do. She had a talk show, her own kind of talk show, but this is the first time she's ever acted, and she's amazing. Manny Akito turns out to be this astoundingly funny character, wonderful actor. Darcy Carden. I mean, it's just a great group of actors. Next year, this time, you'll be interviewing one of them and not us. They're really fascinating, really talented people.
Take us back to when you first started on Cheers and compare that to this show being, you know, right in its first few episodes. How does it compare for you?
Well, it's a completely different style of comedy, but the similarity is they're both really thoughtful. Les and Glenn Charles were so thoughtful in their writing, and they came out of kind of the Mary Tyler Moore, past that, the Show of Shows, that kind of comedy strain. You can follow different comedy strains, really. The one I'm in right now with Mike Schur is the Saturday Night Live strain, you know, of comedy. A lot of writers have come out of that. So both are, you know, both experiences were with great writers. This is a single, we were doing theater, you know, with Cheers. We had a live audience. We would rehearse for 5 days and shoot on the night of the fifth day. And so it was like doing little, you know, fast little 1 week theater shows. And you would, you'd have 3 or 4 cameras, you know, taping it like, or filming it like it was a live performance. So that's a completely, and the audience was there with feedback. So you really are doing theater. The audience takes you and transports you to a different level than any of the rehearsal days. Here we're doing little films. We're not doing theater, we're doing films. It's one camera, basically. We'll use 2 or 3 cameras, but it's like shooting a movie. So, and we don't rehearse, really. I mean, we'll sit down at a lunchtime and read next week's script so the writers can hear it and work on maybe some stuff that didn't quite work from their point of view. And then but then when we get on the set, it's like rehearse and shoot, just like a film. But great experiences both. And, you know, and for me, just ideal. I mean, I was in my mid-30s until my mid-40s doing Cheers. And we were supposed to be very silly, dumb, sweet people hanging out in a bar, having a great time. That's a perfect thing to do in your 30s. I'm now 68, and I'm playing kind of a mentor-ish, you know, greeting people to this new world, I'm the comforting mentor, which is kind of perfect for my 68-year-old me. So both shows kind of worked perfectly for kind of where I was in life.
Well, I got a couple of awards questions. We're an awards website. Your first Emmy award.
Am I getting an award today? Is that why we're talking?
I don't have it handy, but maybe Golden Globes are coming up. SAG Awards are coming up. You never know.
You never know.
You won your first Emmy late in the run. You'd been nominated a bunch of times. That particular night, did you feel like, okay, finally, this is going to be my night? Or what were you thinking as you went into that particular ceremony?
Yeah, because I'd been nominated, I think, that was the 10th year. So I'd been nominated 10 times before that. And you go through tonight's the night, oh, shoot. You'd call your kids on the way home. No, Daddy didn't win, but it's okay. I'm having fun. So the next time you wear a different tuxedo and a different pair of cufflinks, and you don't write a speech. And no, Daddy didn't win. You know, you go through all these different and then you become philosophical. It's like, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You shouldn't give out awards for actors. And you're very philosophical right up until they're reading the names off, you know. And then you just definitely want to win. And then you have to go, it's okay. My friend over there won. That's all right. You know, it's such a ego diminishment, which is good for the soul, by the way. So not a bad thing. But you really need to check your ego at the door when it comes to the acting profession. That night, I think I was more concerned about what Kirstie Alley was going to say, because we had to present together an award before my category came up. And she went off on this, it turned out to be a hysterical kind of comedic riff about how they'd been teasing me for so long. And it was like being in a drive-in theater with your girlfriend. And, she went off this rather, risque description of what the Academy had been doing to me for years, from her point of view. So anyway, I was more worried about her because she can be a bit of a loose cannon.
I remember that. That was a very funny bit, and she could do it even better on that particular ceremony because she had won the year before, so she was holding that over you as well.
Yes, it was very funny. And then one of the Simpsons characters gave me my award, which was also totally bizarre, because it was the first time they could do stuff like that on the screen, have an animated live animated presenter. So it was strange. But the best thing about winning, it's very relaxing. When you lose, you have to become, tighten your belt and become philosophical. And that takes a little bit of energy. When you win, you can just go, oh, that's nice, thank you, and go on about your life.
Somebody, 4 or 5 years ago, I heard somebody say the only thing they could imagine worse than losing was winning, because then they had to go up on stage and make a speech.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now, a couple of years later, for the finale of Cheers, the final season, you won, but where were you? Why couldn't you be there that year?
I was up making a film because the show was over. I won the 10th and the 11th year of Cheers, and the show was over, and I was up in Oakland making a film, and I couldn't get there.
Okay, I knew you had a good reason because you've been there all those other years.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, well, I don't know. Let me tell you, they're hard work. What you do when you go to an Emmy award, you make sure you're wearing something where you can put snacks. You'd have a bag of peanuts over here, you'd stash some water over here, a little sugar or something, because it's 4.5 hours. It's a big, long, kind of grueling thing. So you're working. It looks like Hollywood. I saw, and you can't really hear what anyone else is saying because your mind's going so fast. All you hear is your own thoughts. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Do you ever catch an episode of Cheers? If you're flipping channels and it's on, do you stop?
I'll always stop and watch. Yeah, because I didn't see a lot of them because I had young children about the same time we were shooting. So 9:30 was bedtime, and so I would miss a lot of them. My wife Mary and I would be lying in bed, and she's watching an episode, and she'll say, "What happens next?" And I have no idea.
When you do so many in a row in a year, they just kind of blend together, don't they?
Yeah. How many was it? Like 274 or something like that?
Something like that, because you do 22 to 24 seasons. So yeah, it was a very high number. Well, it's certainly one of the all-time classics. I was a big fan, and another one that I'm a fan of, and it was just announced this week. You and Mary are going to make some appearances on the return of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
On Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yes, we are. And you never know what that's going to be because of the whimsical nature of our friend Larry. It used to be that you'd be doing whatever you were doing with your life, and he would call you and say, "Hey, come down today. We're going to shoot something. Bring some clothes." And you'd be sitting in your car putting on your own makeup almost. It was so kind of guerrilla theater-like thing. Now it's kind of a bigger deal, but you still never quite know what you're going to do. You just kind of show up, and I think your job basically is always to try to corner Larry so that he becomes compressed and more Larry, and then explodes because he's funny when he gets pressed. You
had to be thrilled that he had such a moment this year playing Bernie Sanders. That was just, you couldn't have found a more perfect pairing.
No, unbelievable. Great fit. And he also went off and did a play that was really quite wonderful, and he was great in it on Broadway. So he's been busy just doing other stuff.
Well, you are absolutely great on The Good Place. I hope we get to see you here at the Golden Globes, maybe on the red carpet, you and Mary coming in and you being a nominee again.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely. Anything you can do to draw attention to a show that you enjoy being on is a good thing.
Well,
That was my humble bit, by the way.
That was the humble part.
It's not. It's about the show. It's not about me and my ego.
That's why you're such a great actor. I didn't even realize that you were being humble. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep watching this first season, and we'll see you again soon.
Great. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.